Picture going on stage with bright lights shining all over you and everyone's heart racing with excitement. You're 12 years old and carrying a simple puppet called Petunia. She is your only friend in a world you have only just started to learn about. You're not just an Oklahoma girl at that moment, you're a voice that can silence an arena and a spark that could light a million dreams. This is what Darci Lynne saw when she walked onto the America's Got Talent stage on May 30, 2017, and took her first brave breath in front of a live crowd. The next thing that happened seemed like magic. She turned Summertime from Porgy and Bess into a performance that was so perfect and so moving that the judges were speechless. And when Mel B pressed the golden button, confetti flew all over her. Everyone was amazed as a young girl's life changed in an instant. But getting famous isn't always that easy. There is a fight going on behind the golden confetti and loud cheers that no spotlight can fully shine on. In just a few hours, Darci Lynne's test clip got more views than any other video in AGT history. She went from being a normal teenager from a small town to a worldwide star overnight. The whole world fell in love with her beautiful smile, perfect timing, and voice that sounded like it came from a puppet's mouth. Still, every new friend or like added to her list of things she had to do put more weight on her shoulders, things she had never planned to do. It felt like a fairy tale back then. Darci's life turned into a tornado of interviews, shows that sold out, and meet and greets. Every time she went on Ellen or performed with Pentatonix or Terry Fator, it solidified her reputation as America's beauty. The tours were another thing she did. What was supposed to be 5 small stops turned into 52 places in record time. She had gigs booked before she even finished 8th grade. Everyone saw her as a bright star that could not be dimmed. But when the crowd died down, the silence told a different story, one of weariness, worry, and the crushing weight of demands that no 12-year-old should ever have to deal with. How do you do your algebra homework and move all the time? When your classmates see you as famous, how do you talk about your friendships? When Darci went back to Deer Creek Middle School, she was hoping to find normalcy, but instead she found something much scarier, a constant light that followed her through the locker rooms and lunch lines. The attention was a bad thing for her brother Nate. He used to be able to walk through hallways without being seen, but now his sister's fame followed him around and people asked him about her life instead of his own. Their parents wanted both of them to have some of their youth, so they came up with a weak compromise: tours on the weekends and classes during the week. It was hard to keep up with plans when every weekend was full of sound checks and every school day was broken up by missed tasks. At first, Darci hid her problems behind Petunia and her other puppets, like Oscar, the shy mouse, and Edna Doorknocker, who was very funny. On stage, she was the sure-of-herself performer who mixed humor and heart with ease. The girl who used to be shy now had trouble with chronic tiredness and panic attacks when she wasn't on stage. Fans wondered about her quiet appearances because they saw a loss of spark in her eyes. What they didn't see was the fear of waking up to a never-ending list of questions, the panic of losing a line, and the imposter syndrome that kept telling them that their sudden success was just a fluke. Later, experts agreed that her voice was tired from practicing 6 shows a week, and her young body longed for rest but rarely got it. The turning point came when her family planned an unannounced trip away to save her sanity. They cut down on their public events and interviews, and they put therapists, counselors, and doctors all around Darci. People stopped following her on social media, and the focus dimmed as someone put a stop to her fast-paced career. It was risky because taking a step back could have meant becoming less well-known. But it had to be done to protect the heart behind the fame. Her parents did more than just keep a child safe when they pulled her back. They gave a young girl room to breathe and grow. Unexpectedly, something new came out of that forced silence: creation. When everyone was quiet for a while, Darci found interests that had been buried during years of touring and ventriloquism. During the pandemic lockdowns, she taught herself how to write songs and wrote lyrics that showed how bittersweet her youth was. She put Petunia down, picked up a guitar, and recorded Push Our Luck, her first song, which is full of honesty and self-discovery. Soon after, she got her start as an actress in a Netflix movie. She then went behind the camera to make her own award-winning music video. Each project was a statement that she was more than just a voice and a doll. She was an artist with her own story to tell. A lot of the time, Darci Lynne's story is told as a golden buzzer triumph. But her real impact may lie in how she changed what it meant to be successful for herself. She broke the myth that fame is a never-ending high by putting her mental health ahead of endless tours and being herself ahead of being typecast. Today, she gives her time and energy to causes that are important to her, like performing at children's hospitals to bring joy, supporting mental health programs that helped her get through hard times, and using her fame to remember fans that behind every performance is a person who needs compassion. So the next time someone calls her the girl with the puppet, think of the little girl whose voice amazed everyone and the teen who changed the rules of the business. Darci Lynne's story isn't just about success, it's also about surviving, being strong, and having the guts to take back a story that almost consumed her. Stay with me, because there's more to find out. There were times of revelation that tested her faith and sparks of hope that still guide her today. Even in the glow of stardom, the road that glitters most brightly often hides cracks beneath. For Darci Lynne, the days after she won AGT were like a dream, but things were not quite that simple. Before she knew it, fame showed up at her door. One day she practiced with dolls, and the next she had cameras and people following her around. Everyone who saw her would gasp in recognition, telling her that she was no longer just a 12-year-old girl, but a brand. She did a great job under bright lights, but when the doors were closed, she was completely worn out. At night, when she was tired and wired, she would lie awake and think about every cheer and hope. As Darci's lively spirit started to show cracks, her family became more and more worried. She was shy and quiet when she was younger, but now her every move was watched closely by both fans and reviewers. She tried to keep up a front of unwavering happiness, but small changes were happening, her voice shaking during long practices, interviews with empty pauses, and the odd day when she just couldn't find her trademark smile. At those times, the weight of expectation was so heavy that it felt like a force. Parents, managers, and coaches talked behind closed doors about quickly and urgently scaling back, but fear of losing progress stopped anyone from taking action. Eventually, the whispers turned into urgent calls. At a turning point in the life of a child star, Darci's parents did something brave. They pulled back the curtain and gave their daughter the gift of normality. Interviews were turned down, social media posts were stopped, and tour plans were pushed back. The constant buzzing of cameras stopped overnight, and it was now quiet enough to study in the afternoon and have family meals. It was a big change that might have made a less bright star dim, but for Darci, it gave her something more valuable than praise: time. It was time to take a deep breath, remember what life was all about outside of the stage, and heal a mind and body that were on the verge of breaking. In the months that followed, Darci did a practice. She went to therapy. She was honest about having panic attacks before curtain calls and not being able to sleep, which made her voice hoarse, in neutral rooms with soft lighting. Therapists helped her get out of the tight knot of pride and self-doubt that was around her heart. She learned to set limits, say no to events that would make her lose her mind, and schedule time in the afternoons to do easy things she enjoyed as a teen, like reading comic books, baking cookies, or riding her bike. It wasn't a glamorous episode, but it changed everything. As the stress went away, she found a stronger resolve and confidence that didn't come from getting a lot of views, but from knowing she was more than her performance. Many teens felt lost when the world stopped during the pandemic, but for Darci, it was a time when she could be most creative. When she wasn't on stages or in the spotlight, she found comfort in writing songs. She kept notebooks under her pillow and wrote tunes in them. Producers were not waiting in fancy studios. There was only a guitar and an empty bedroom that resounded with possibilities. At first, she paused because she was afraid of failing without the comfort of ventriloquism. She learned that her voice could carry more than just a song through a puppet. It could also carry her own facts. With some gentle pushes from her teachers, she made demos that showed the quiet vulnerability and hope she'd buried under the weight of fame. Fans heard both old and new things when Push Our Luck first came out. After years of practicing ventriloquism, her voice had deeper tones thanks to what she had learned in therapy. Reviews praised her songwriting growth and emotional honesty, praising lines that spoke to everyone's fear of being watched as they grow up. People who didn't like it called it a bold reinvention, but Darci played it down like she was still a shy girl in a beauty show. Soon, her first music video won awards not because it had fireworks in it, but because it showed how she found herself visually. The girl who used to hide behind dolls was now taking center stage. In addition to growing as an artist, Darci used her skills to help others. Do you remember the puppets? They came back not only as props, but also as instruments of joy in children's hospitals, where she performed to make the days of sick kids more fun. She spoke out for mental health efforts that told teens to get help early and be honest about their anxiety. At benefit shows, she moves people to tears not with a ventriloquist act but by telling the truth about her problems. With every smile, she carried the weight of life and an unspoken promise that strength lies behind perfect masks. Fans found out a truth that was much more interesting than the audition clip on her trip. What lies ahead for her will be revealed in her next chapter. When Darci Lynne stepped onto the stage again after a season of purposeful silence, she felt a familiar flutter of nerves. But this time, the shaking came with a stability she hadn't felt since she was 12. As the lights in the arena went out and were replaced by a single laser, there was a silence that could be felt throughout the room. There was no longer any confetti or golden bell chaos. Instead, there was a young woman ready to take control of her own story. Instead of Petunia, she held a guitar in her hands. As her fingers touched the strings, the quiet grew into a sense of eager expectation. There was a strong message in every note. She would no longer hide behind a dummy and would stand tall in her own voice. In the middle of her song, she stopped to look out at all the faces, hoping to be recognized for more than just being a kid star. People didn't gasp in surprise, instead, they nodded and smiled at her, as if they were seeing a live artist instead of a memory. Some people said that her new look might turn off her die-hard fans who loved her ventriloquism, but the response showed that change is more powerful than memories. Many people were moved by her bravery as well as her ability when the last chord was played. The applause crashed like waves against a cliff. Backstage, interviewers were very excited and quickly switched between asking about the number of views on her videos going viral and her new artistic direction. She answered each one with a moderate amount of trust, putting more weight on growth than trophies, realness than algorithms, and openness over perfect performances. Podcast hosts praised her honesty and asked her to talk about anxiety, therapy, and how writing songs can help heal mental wounds. The headlines changed from puppet prodigy to artist reclaimed, which showed how she changed when she gave up ventriloquism and started expressing herself fully. Her production team put together plans for a new tour that would include acoustic stories, high-energy songs, and personal visual pieces that she had made herself. This time, the plan included wellness retreats between venues, breaks to drink water on stage, and easy entry places for fans who are sensitive to sound or light. In a first-of-its-kind move for a teenage artist, Darci insisted on a support caravan with therapists and nutritionists at every stop. During rehearsals, dancers, visual artists, and musicians worked with her to incorporate ventriloquism into chapters with a central theme. Puppets came back as interesting figures in a bigger story, not because they had to, but because they could be used to show metaphors and emotional depth. During lockdown, she met new people who helped her write songs. Each of them had a different take on love, fear, and hope. She said that writing songs was like looking in a mirror. It showed her the highs and lows of a journey that had almost covered up who she was. At a benefit concert for children with cancer, she sang an unreleased ballad with words about strength and then gave free workshops. She said things that kids and adults both felt like gentle lifelines. These things reminded people that art can heal in ways that medicine sometimes can't. The media paid attention when she shared honest stories about therapy breakthroughs along with raw studio video and information on how to get professional help. Fans of Petunia posted art of her on social media, and teens thanked her for starting talks about mental health in their schools. A local TV show called her an emerging role model and drew attention to the fact that she wouldn't spread the false idea that fame makes people happy. For her upcoming tour poster, she chose a simple design with just one silhouette of herself playing guitar. She didn't use big logos because she wanted to make a personal link. Because she talked about worry and burnout so openly, fans formed support groups at each city stop to share ways to deal with them. Later, Darci's producer said that no one had seen such a large-scale action coming together. This shows how important authenticity is in a manufactured world. Even her management team had to rethink how to measure success. They now keep track of the impact on mental health along with ticket sales and viewing numbers. In quiet times, she would still get Petunia from backstage to tell her first fans a soft joke or a heartfelt thank you. At those times, the two sides of her craft felt most alive, the simplicity of childhood blending with the wisdom of adulthood, with neither taking over the other. Every step of her trip was marked by contrast. Her nerves were balanced by her steady confidence, and the puppet's voice was met by her own stories. Coming back to public life was both like coming home and leaving, and it reminded me that change brings both comfort and challenge. Fans are getting more and more excited about how she will continue to combine art and action, setting new standards for authenticity and inspiring people of all ages with her fearless heart and unwavering purpose. Her next part will show another side of her unstoppable spirit with even more growth, empathy, and creative breakthroughs. Later that year, Darci Lynne found herself in a place she didn't expect, a community center exercise hall full of kids from schools that didn't have enough money. The plastic chairs were set up in a half circle, and the fluorescent lights buzzed above. The room hummed with a mix of excitement and doubt. "What good will a puppet show do for us?" one teen said in a low voice. The talking stopped, though, when Darci put Petunia to her lips and made soft comments about bravery, laughter, and the power of the mind. Each clever remark asked people to raise their hands, but not for technical questions. Instead, they were asked to share stories about getting over fear, finding joy in small wins, and learning to dream no matter what. By adding heart to her humor, she turned a show into a bridge that brought people together in a way that went beyond applause. Then, over the next few months, she focused on bigger issues, like childhood worry and mental health. As she went around hospitals, she traded loud confetti blasts for soft interactions with kids, like putting a puppet in their hand or listening to their fears about their treatment plans. She would also offer a moment of peace and quiet amidst the beeping monitors. The only things that matter are eye contact and understanding. During one memorable visit, she sat next to a girl getting chemotherapy. The girl whispered, "I wish I could be brave like you." Darci leaned in and whispered back, "Bravery isn't being fearless, it's doing what you need to do even when you're scared." That simple exchange earned more thanks than any viral video and gave both of them the strength to keep going. Offstage, she fought for mental health groups by using her name and image in projects that brought attention to problems that are often hidden behind perfect smiles. She shared honest videos of her therapy sessions, which showed vulnerable times with soft lighting and honest talking. Her voice would shake with honesty as she said, "Anxiety doesn't mean you're weak, it just means you feel things deeply." Those words struck a chord with thousands of young fans who saw their own fears in her eyes. Many people replied, "Thank you for saying what I couldn't, I started therapy because of you, and your story saved me." All of them agreed with her that impact should lead to action, not just love. Darci's team sought a change in how they were measuring progress. Streaming numbers were still important, but social impact metrics were even more important. These included the number of therapy referrals linked to her shoutouts, messages from parents saying their kids slept better because of her bedtime puppet stories, and letters from teachers thanking her for starting conversations about mental health in their classrooms. This all-around attitude changed the game for young stars. Concert organizers changed the plans to include stops for community outreach. Along with t-shirts and posters, information pamphlets were sold at merch booths. Sponsors stepped up to fund scholarship programs in Oklahoma, where Shooting Star is from, so that students could explore performance art without having to worry about money. Every public performance was a chance to set a contrast. The carefree laughter of a puppet show was balanced by calm conversations about feelings, and candlelit vigils for mental health awareness were set against the bright lights of the stage. This duality became a trademark of Darci's. She wasn't just the talented puppeteer who impressed the judges anymore, she was a young leader who could combine sparkle and seriousness in a single sentence. This balance was shown by her during a keynote speech at a teen leadership gathering. She started with a quick-fire comedy sketch and then told the audience how nervous she felt before every audition. The crowd held their breath and then gave a standing ovation to honor the idea that being weak is the best way to be strong. As her fame grew, she formed relationships with national charities that help kids. Over the course of one busy weekend, she read audiobooks to kids who are blind or visually impaired, led puppet classes for siblings of sick kids, and held live-stream songwriting sessions about overcoming obstacles. In between sets, she told the people that were there to write their fears on paper puppets, which they could then use to act and let go of. Therapists said that this mix of artistic expression and storytelling was a fun way for kids to deal with trauma. Darci watched from the wings with Petunia in one arm. She was amazed at how a simple thought could heal so many people. When she came back to TV, she surprised everyone by going back to America's Got Talent as a guest mentor instead of a competitor. She worked with contestants to help them improve their stage presence and emotional honesty, telling them that connecting with the audience is more important than being technically perfect. The judges praised her intelligence, and her friends praised how kind she was. Inspired by Darci's method, the show added a new segment called Heart Stage, where artists talked about their personal problems before auditioning. A lot of people watched, showing that honest feelings were more interesting than smooth exteriors. Darci's influence had finally changed the show that made her famous in the first place. She did a great job with contrast framing throughout it all. At a red carpet premiere, her full dress sparkled in the light. Inside the theater, she sat quietly with her notes in her purse, telling herself of the weak spots she wouldn't ignore. On social media, there were both glossy pictures and grainy behind-the-scenes clips of people doing therapy homework and writing songs late at night. Each post emphasized the same truth: being brave enough to show your flaws is what makes you successful, not being perfect. Fans liked the message and made fan art of Darci in all kinds of clothes, from sparkly costumes to cozy sweatshirts with tea mugs and notebooks. This part of her story shows something very important: transformation works best when skills are tempered by a sense of purpose. Petunia is still her loyal friend, but now she shares the spotlight with important issues. The glitter has taken on a new meaning, representing both happiness and freedom. Darci Lynne, the girl who used to use a puppet to silence stadiums, now listens more than she speaks and uses every chance she gets to make opinions heard that might otherwise be ignored. As her journey goes on, one thing is certain: the tragedy that could have ended the career of a child star instead started a legacy of kindness, creativity, and unshakable hope. When Darci Lynne thinks about the ups and downs that have made up her journey, she finds herself at a point where childhood memories, career successes, and personal growth all come together. This moment feels both old and new at the same time. It feels old because she remembers how exciting it is to be backstage, but it feels new because the stakes have changed. People are now not only looking forward to her next performance, but also watching how she mixes being an artist with being an advocate, being creative with taking care of herself, and being ambitious with being real. She used to look for confidence and praise, but now it comes from quiet times to think about herself, like writing in a journal by a lamplight, playing guitar chords by herself, or just going for a walk without a camera in sight. In these quiet spots, she finds the voice that drew her to the stage in the first place, without any expectations or franchise forms getting in the way. Still, there are problems. The needs of the industry get more complicated as Darci gets into her late teens. Record companies want songs that will go to the top of the charts, tour promoters want to play bigger venues, and brand partners want to work with her on endorsements that don't always fit with her values. Every offer is a test. Will this chance help underrepresented views be heard, or will it take her attention away from the causes she cares about? When a big backer asked her to be the face of a drink brand aimed at young people, she thought about the message as well as the money. She talked to therapists and teachers behind closed doors, asking herself if she could really promote products she didn't believe in. In the end, she said no because she wanted to protect her honor rather than make quick money. She sent a strong message to her fans by doing this: influence lasts longest when it comes from true conviction, not from making money. When it comes to creativity, Darci's music has turned into a group effort. She now works with co-writers who push her to explore new emotional areas, like humor with a touch of sadness or happiness. Her songs are now more in-depth about identity, self-worth, and the search for meaning. One unreleased song, which has a working title of Between the Spotlight and Silence, paints a vivid picture of a performer who is torn between being loved by the public and being alone in their own thoughts. Phrases like "I smile for thousands, but who sees the tears?" hit home with fans who have seen her grow up on TV and movies. When she played the song for the first time at a benefit gala, in the middle of a set of happy tunes, it felt like an honest confession. The audience held their breath for a moment before exploding in sympathetic applause. This was a turning point in her journey from entertainer to storyteller. The plans for the next year's tours show this new phase. The people in charge of the show have planned white space days, times when Darci doesn't have to do anything, so she can rest, think, and stay in touch with her support network. On some nights, she brings in local community leaders to introduce her shows, bringing attention to grassroots projects in each place she visits. In Denver, she co-hosted workshops with a nonprofit that helps young people gain confidence. In Portland, she joined a mental health coalition and spoke in schools. And in Miami, she played at an outdoor concert where families who were having a hard time could get in for free. By adding a purpose to each city stop, she turns a normal music tour into a traveling festival of hope and creativity, encouraging fans to help make communities better instead of just enjoying the show. The causes she chooses to work with show how carefully she chooses her partners. She still supports programs that use horses to help with therapy, citing the time she found peace on horseback riding vacations as an example. She's increasing the number of scholarships she gives to young performers from underserved areas so that money problems don't get in the way of their ability. She is also working with mental health groups to make mobile apps that teach mindfulness and coping skills through interactive stories. This idea came from her love of puppetry as a child and the way it can be used today. Each project supports the idea that art and kindness can exist together, and that a performer's impact is measured not only by ticket sales but also by the lives they improve on purpose. Darci Lynne puts limits first, even as her fame grows. On the weekends, she has family dinners and game nights. Every morning, she does yoga and meditates to calm down. To avoid feeling too overwhelmed, she only uses social media during set check-in times. Friends from school who remember her shy competition days and hanging out at local ice cream shops on the weekends are still very important to her. Their friendship without filters balances out the relationships that are all about acting that are a big part of her public life. These friendships tell her that she doesn't have to show off her laughter to be real, and that being vulnerable is a valuable thing that should only be used in places where trust is strong. In the future, Darci wants to see an organization that combines mental health outreach with the arts. She imagines residencies where young artists can work with therapists to make puppet shows that use allegory and song to deal with trauma, anxiety, and sadness. She wants a traveling library full of dolls, instruments, journals, and recording gear so that any child can try expressing themselves for free. These projects may sound like big goals, but she has always had big goals ever since she got her first bravery on the AGT stage. The source has changed, it's no longer the thrill of competition, but the belief that every act can make the world a little nicer and more connected. In every new song she writes, every theater she performs in, and every cause she supports, Darci Lynne keeps the difference that made her famous, the fine line between showmanship and vulnerability, between being confident and being genuinely humble. Her story shows us that sadness doesn't have to be the end, it can be used to make us more compassionate and creative. One thing stays the same about Darci Lynne: the heart that once beat fiercely behind a puppet's smile now beats even stronger in her own chest, ready to inspire generations in ways that no one could have imagined. As she moves on to her next chapter, she carries the lessons of every important moment with her. Every victory and every setback have added up to a patchwork of strength, purpose, and artistic vision. Instead of the fairy tale of getting the golden buzzer, her real story is told by the decisions she makes every day, which are about balancing creativity with compassion, ambition with authenticity, and showmanship with real connection. She knows that fame is a trip, not a destination, and that the most important milestones are the lives she changes, not the ones she posts on social media. In the coming months, she will debut a new play that combines ventriloquism, live music, and spoken comments on mental health. Imagine a stage with soft violet light and a white puppet sitting on a stool. Darci's voice would be telling personal stories of weakness and hope. In between songs and sketches, she will be honest about her worry, her sense of self-worth, and how she is healing. People will laugh and cry, but most of all, they will feel like they are being heard. That is her biggest goal, to make art that feels more like a friendly chat than a one-way show. As she works with new artists, mental health advocates, and charity leaders, the number of projects she works on will grow. She wants to start a mentorship program for young performers who are having mental health problems. The program will pair them with professionals who can help them with therapy, songwriting, and stagecraft. Workshops will teach people how to use imagination to deal with their feelings and build community by combining guided self-expression with interactive puppet design. Storytellers, therapists, musicians, and visual artists will share their skills, creations, and support networks at a yearly empathy festival. This will be a place where art and advocacy meet. Her online presence will also change to include more meaningful material, such as live streams from therapy-infused songwriting sessions, Q&A episodes that talk about the realities of touring and self-care, and short documentaries that show how youth leaders are using art to get through hard times. We live in a world full of short videos and shocking news stories, so she tries to tell stories that have greater meaning. She lets people into her process by sharing raw, behind the scenes moments that include tears, laughter, and real conversations. This takes the mystery out of the creative process and shows that art and action can work together. The juggling act does, of course, go on. She will still go on tour and put out new music, but now each album will come with an interactive pamphlet that has exercises, questions for reflection, and information guides for mental health. Ticket platforms will let customers donate to local nonprofits when they check out. This will turn entertainment into a way to help others. She will create wristbands that flash in unison with uplifting songs for seasonal tours to show that everyone is united. When a chorus builds, the crowd won't just be watching, they'll be a part of a live tapestry with a common goal. Darci's most powerful tool is still her voice, which can be used both literally and figuratively. Even though she can still sing beautiful tunes, it's her words that really hit home and inspire people to do good things. A single note can quiet an arena, which is something she learned a long time ago. Now she knows that a single story can change a life. Because of this, she shares her stories carefully, honestly, and without any filters. Fans and newbies will both see a change that comes from the heart and is sharpened by experience as this last act plays out. The dolls that she used as a mask now stand together as a sign of healing for everyone. She will be accompanied by Petunia, Oscar, and Edna on this journey, not as reminders of a childhood victory, but as emotional partners who will help people laugh and think. Now that her next project is slowly coming together, it's more than just a show, it's a call. And call to accept flaws, talk about fear honestly, and use creativity to bring about change. That's why it's important to remember that every performance and talk can help people understand and care about each other. Darci Lynne's story has gone beyond competition and turned into an ongoing conversation between artist and audience, a connection based on openness and a sense of shared humanity. Do not lose touch or tune out, the story is not over yet. You have seen a child genius rise, a young star struggle, and a brave woman start over. Get ready for the next step in Darci Lynne's journey, where her artistic skills and compassion come together to make something bigger than the sum of its parts. This is not the end, it's a new beginning, and you are asked to play a key role in the story as it goes on. Come along with her as she writes each new chapter with bravery, honesty, and unwavering kindness. The heart of her story doesn't belong to one stage, but to everyone who hears her voice and is moved by it. Stand together.